Although there's an endless sea of laptops with similar specs, that doesn't mean they all have the same price tag. The Acer Predator Helios 300 is a sleek gaming laptop with a 12th generation Intel Core processor, an NVIDIA GeForce RTX GPU, and a 15-inch 2560x1440 resolution display. Acer has refreshed the Predator Helios 300 to be more streamlined, including a simplified chassis, straight corners, and most of its ports moved to the back of the notebook. But similarly spec'd laptops don't always perform the same, either. The Predator has a few caveats, like a less than favorable webcam and mediocre speakers, issues that we don't often find with the best gaming laptops. You'll have to decide if the cheaper price tag is worth those drawbacks. Design. The Acer Predator Helios 300 has a sleek design with a two-tone black exterior and aluminum on the lid. There's a small Predator logo on the top center of the lid and a well-placed light bar on the front edge of its bottom that ups the gaming aesthetic. When you open the laptop, the per-key RGB keyboard is revealed. The 15.6-inch display has a rather thick plastic bezel underneath it with a Predator logo at its center. The palm rest utilizes aluminum, and the borders around the touchpad have a pretty polish. Above the keyboard, there's a grill for ventilation as well as a turbo button for instant overclocking. On the left side of the laptop are a Kensington lock slot, Ethernet port, USB Type-A port, and a 3.5mm headphone jack, and on the right are two more Type-A ports, one with power-off charging capabilities. Although there are ports on the left and right of the Predator, most of them are housed in the back, between two vents. The back holds a port for the power adapter, a Thunderbolt 4 port, an HDMI 2.1 connector, and a mini display port. Gaming and graphics. Our configuration of the Acer Predator Helios 300 came with an Intel Core i7 12700H CPU, alongside an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3070 Ti that has 8 GB of GDDR6 VRAM, a 150W max graphics power, and a 1410 MHz boost clock. Even though its competitors have the same GPU, the Helios didn't top our tests. While playing Monster Hunter Rise with unlocked frame rates at the Helios' native resolution, the game ran at 139 frames per second. As I stalked a Tigrex, exhausted after the beating I gave it with my hunting horn, the game fluctuated between 119 and 129 FPS. With DLSS and VSync turned on, the game jumped to a more consistent 145 FPS. When we ran Grand Theft Auto V's benchmark at very high settings, the Acer Predator Helios 300 played at 117 FPS at 1008 and 77 FPS in native 1440. The Legion 5i Pro outperformed the Helios with 131 FPS at 1008 and 78 FPS at 1440, while the Razer Blade 15 reached 104 FPS at 1008 and 67 FPS in its native resolution. However, the Gigabyte Aero 16 and its RTX 3070 Ti underperformed with 101 FPS at 1008 and 28 FPS in its native 4K resolution. Productivity performance. We tested the Acer Predator Helios 300 with an Intel Core i7 12700H, 16 GB of DDR5 RAM, and 1 TB of SSD storage. Although the Predator shares the same processor as the competition in most cases, it didn't perform as well on benchmarks. On Geekbench 5, an overall performance test focused on the CPU, the Predator earned a single-core score of 1,727 and a multi-core score of 10,164. Meanwhile, the Lenovo Legion 5i had the lowest single-core performance and the highest multi-core score, with 1,595 and 13,008, respectively. The Gigabyte Aero 16 achieved 1,751/11,819, and the Razer Blade with its i7 12800H had the lowest results at 1,765/9,263, respectively. Display. The Acer Predator Helios 300 has a 15.6-inch display with a 2560x1440 resolution, NVIDIA G-Sync support, and a 240Hz refresh rate. When I watched One Piece on Netflix, I was taken aback by how vibrant the colors were. As I watched Fire Fist Ace battle Blackbeard and his darkness abilities, the reds were vivid and stood out against the shadowy black. When I played Monster Hunter Rise, the natural greens of the forest were deep, and the light reflections from the sun were bright. The only thing that takes away from the otherwise great display is the distractingly thick bezel underneath it. We hope you found our in-depth review helpful and informative. Comment below if you have any questions about this review or explanation. Thanks for watching.